episode of this series on the channel so far. And in the last review, I made the statement that episode 5 was what we had been waiting for. Well, no, it was not. This episode 6, this is what we had been waiting for. As always, I have a list of notes that I made that you're probably not going to be able to see. My phone's too bright. Hold on. I want you guys to be able to see my notes. Kenobi episode 6. So, we're going to talk about it. And, just hop right into it. Look at some of the thoughts that I had while watching this episode. And, yeah. So we start off. We see Reva, who had, in the previous episode, been left for dead after losing to Darth Vader on that, I can't remember the name of that planet, but where all the Jedi were hiding out, and she's on Tatooine, and she's looking for Uncle Owen and Beru, so she's looking for Luke Skywalker, obviously. So maybe she thinks, in some way that if she's able to kill Luke or take him to the Empire or something, then they'll finally accept her and welcome her into their ranks. So you can still sort of see the delusion and the brainwashing at work on Reva. Cut to the ship that had fled the planet that Obi-Wan had gotten to. He's in there with Leia, and they're being chased by a Star Destroyer. And Vader's telling his men to fire more lasers, and there's multiple times where the ship is being hit by these laser blasts, these ship cannons, laser cannons, and I was kind of thinking to myself, like, how many shots can this little cargo ship sustain? Like, it's not a fighter, it's not a warship of any means, it's a cargo ship, and it's like taking dozens of shots. It keeps like rattling, and I know there's laser force fields and things, but it seemed like a Star Destroyer shouldn't have that much trouble with the little cargo ship, but whatever, that's just a thing. Okay, then we saw young Luke, which I wasn't really expecting to see young Luke in this series, or at least not spend any considerable time with him, but he did get some screen time, so we saw young Luke. Also, Owen is telling Aunt Beru, like, we need to leave. They're looking for Luke, like, they want to take him from us. And instead of running away, her first reaction is going and getting the guns. Like, she's like, no, we're gonna face him. Then Obi-Wan, he's with the ship, they're taking all these shots, and he's like, I need to go. Like, Vader's after me. He doesn't care about you. If I leave, he'll follow me instead. And Leia's like asking him not to go. Then he ends up giving her iconic holster that she will carry with her throughout episodes 4, 5, and 6. Carries her pistol, the long, skinny pistol. And there's a moment where Obi-Wan was sitting there meditating before leaving, and he was reaching out to Qui-Gon Jinn through the Force and asking to speak with them. And I was like, oh, are we actually gonna see Qui-Gon Jinn? Because I love Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon is one of my favorite Jedi. I love his story, his appearances in the books, the extended universe, all those things. I've always found Qui-Gon Jinn a very interesting character. I was a bit disappointed that we did not see him in that moment, but Obi-Wan decides to fly away from the ship, and you see Vader's arrogance on full display when he says, "I will face him alone." You can see that he is still very clouded, deluded by the dark side. You know, that anger and hate is his main motivational drive. That's what, is pushing him forward, is his need for revenge. Because Obi-Wan Kenobi had humiliated him and lived to tell the tale. He created, even though he would later deny, but Kenobi defeated him and crippled him for the rest of his life, and maybe in Vader's eyes ruined his life. And that need to redeem himself through the killing of Obi-Wan Kenobi clouds his judgment, and he says, "I'll go alone." And then we're kind of intercutting back and forth between Vader and Obi-Wan, and then Reva trying to find Luke, kind of going back and forth. So we cut then to Reva coming into the moisture farm, the Owens, or the Lars's moisture farm, rather. And I'm just kind of thinking, like, how are these two moisture farmers with rifles going to do anything to a Sith Inquisitor who has a double-bladed lightsaber and the Force? It's a little, but they definitely put up a fight. Then you have the main thing I want to talk about, obviously what everybody's going to be talking about, the focus of this episode, Obi-Wan and Vader facing off for the second time. The first time with Vader in his armor. Obviously not like, A New Hope obviously was made first, but chronologically in the story, the first time. And did not disappoint. Definitely lived up to the hype and the expectations that I had. I also loved the location they shot that in. I saw some complaints that people thought it was a little bit dark, and I can see that, definitely was a darker location. But anytime, especially with the modern glowy lightsabers they use for fighting, that they're fighting in these dark locations, and the lightsabers themselves are the main points of illumination. I'm always a sucker for that, and I thought it looked beautiful. Just the blue and the red light illuminating that landscape, I thought looked really good. And seeing Vader with his one-handed, brutal, strong stance versus an aged Obi-Wan, but then Obi-Wan kind of turns the tables a little bit, and I think Vader even remarks, he says, your strength has returned, but your weakness remains. That was a very nice line. And Obi-Wan even forces Vader into having to use two hands on his saber for the first time. He'd been just one hand swinging it around thus far, but Obi-Wan made him use two. And then Vader did a force hand to the ground, crack the earth like an earthbender. Then we got back to the Lars's farm, and I was thinking, like, for just a random moisture farmer, Uncle Owen is getting some pretty decent hits in on this Sith Inquisitor. He was like tying her up, and he like hit her with this big metal pole pipe thing a few times. Like, he was cracking her with it, and I was like, Uncle Owen, did not expect this from you. Back to the Vader fight, and Obi-Wan did this forced throw Vader back into a rock, and it kind of reminded me of this fight that came out around that game with the Force and the style of lightsaber combat. That's kind of what this fight reminded me of a bit. And I loved that they actually showed lightsaber combatants using the Force as a weapon in their fights, because it's something that was painfully absent in the prequel trilogy. And then obviously in the original trilogy, the technology wasn't really as there to do as much, but Obi-Wan then goes God mode, like lifts up all these rocks and just starts flinging them at Vader and hitting him. And I loved how they showed, because Obi-Wan is known as a very defensive duelist. He's a master of Form 3, which is just basically the most defensive style there is. It's not about attacking. But then you see Obi-Wan gets very aggressive. I think more aggressive than we've ever seen him before. He's charging forward. At one point he's like flourishing around one-handed and just messing Vader up. He gets in close and he like hits his life system box with the back of his saber. Then he cuts Vader's back and he starts doing that iconic, I don't know what you'd call it, but when Vader is like getting messed up, that iconic like wheezing sort of sound of his system starting to fail. Then the best moment, Obi-Wan leaps forward and slices across Vader's helmet like this, and this comes off. This part falls away, and you see Vader underneath. You see Anakin Skywalker's face. Live action, Hayden Christensen. Also, that slice explains the big gash in Vader's head, the big scar right around here in Return of the Jedi. So, nice little touch there explaining that big scar in Return of the Jedi. But then the voice came out, and the voice coming out of Darth Vader was like a 50-50 blend of Christensen and James Earl Jones. And sometimes it would go full Hayden Christensen, sometimes it would go full James Earl Jones, and it was done so well. And as he was talking, you saw the use of blue and red light on his face as he was talking to show the duality of Vader. And the best line, obviously like the standout line that all the reaction videos are gonna be, is "You didn't," where he says, "I am not your failure, Obi-Wan," cloaked in blue light. "I am not your failure, Obi-Wan." The blue light dissipates. "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker." Red light comes in. "I did." And his face, Vader's face, when he says, "I did," you see this big, maniacal grin on his face. And you almost have to, like, question, because we have never seen under Vader's helmet when he's doing some of the awful things he is doing. When he was dragging those people through the street in episode 2, when he was, or episode 3, whatever, when he's killing these Jedi, we haven't seen his face. He has the helmet on. So it kind of gives you this illusion that perhaps he is this unflinching, unfeeling, stone-faced villain, because the mask itself does not change. But perhaps, under the helmet, he's wearing that same crazed look on his face that he has when he's talking to Obi-Wan there. And we see that the light is basically gone. We see the villain that he has become. Also, the line, it's a great callback to A New Hope when Obi-Wan Kenobi tells Luke Skywalker that Darth Vader killed Luke's father, because Darth Vader himself just told Obi-Wan that he did kill Anakin Skywalker. And then Obi-Wan is sitting there and he says, that he's failed him, and he says, "Goodbye, Darth." Again, A New Hope, him referring to Obi-Wan as Darth. And then you see Vader limping forward after Obi-Wan as he runs away, not as he runs away, but as he just leaves. Obi-Wan walks away, he leaves Vader there, defeated, broken. Man, my little light's messing up here. Defeated, broken, humiliated, and Obi-Wan just walks away. Says, "Goodbye, Darth," walks away. And you see Darth Vader there limping after Obi-Wan. Obviously no real hope to catch up to him and do anything, but he's limping after him, desperately trying to get to him. And he's just completely bathed in red light in that moment. The interior of his helmet, the man inside the mask, completely drenched in red light. And in that moment, he looked like a horror movie villain. He looked like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers coming after. He looked terrifying in that moment. And then he's screaming out to him. Obi-Wan screaming out to him. Sort of like Maul has done in the past. And Obi-Wan just walks away. He couldn't bring himself to kill, Anakin. Which I thought, earlier he said, "I will do what I must." And then he just walks away and leaves him there. So, he didn't do what he had to, but I get it. He obviously couldn't kill Vader, so. Then we come back to Reva and Luke. And she finds him. He's hiding, and she finds him. She comes upon him. And we kind of superimpose Obi-Wan is getting these visions of Luke running from her, and he goes into a hyper jump to get to Tatooine faster, and they kind of give you this false idea, oh, maybe Obi-Wan's gonna get there in time and save Luke or something, but Reva can't do it. As she approaches Luke laying there on the ground, and she's getting ready to kill him or kidnap him or whatever, Luke changes to her as a child. She sees herself in her youngling helmet, and she sees herself as Vader. And she realizes that if she does what she's thinking of doing, she will be no better than him, and that the cycle of violence will continue. But she isn't Vader. She's just, even deep down with all the power that she has now, she is still just that terrified youngling. In that moment, she can't do it. And we see Obi-Wan standing with Owen and Beru, and Reva is bringing Luke towards them. And she sets him on the ground, and she has this heart-to-heart with Luke, or with Obi-Wan rather. Then she buries her lightsaber in the sand of Tatooine, as people are wont to do apparently in Star Wars, and she walks away. Then we get Obi-Wan goes to Alderaan to see Leia, Bail Organa. Leia asks if she'll ever see him again, and he says, "If you ever need help from a tired old man." So, obviously setting up the fact that, well, in just a few short years, she will need help from that tired old man. Back to Tatooine, Obi-Wan going, obviously, to settle down and watch over Luke. And he's goes up and talks to Owen, and Owen says, "Do you want to meet him?" So Obi-Wan goes up to Luke, and we'd kind of been waiting for it. People kind of assumed it was going to happen at some point, we just weren't sure when. And they saved it for the best possible moment. He does the iconic "hello there," in the exact same tone and inflection and everything. And so the memes were satisfied that day. Good piece of fan service. And then at the very end, the part that gave me chills, Obi-Wan is riding away off into the sunset to go into his life of seclusion. And you see just kind of fading in the silhouette. And there it is, he's Qui-Gon Jinn. and I was so happy to see Qui-Gon. I'd been waiting. I think from episode 1, I'd been hoping that Qui-Gon Jinn would appear in this series. And right there at the end, there he is, and he's like, I've been here the whole time, you just haven't been able to, or haven't been ready to see me. And then he also sort of sets up a sequel, because we do know that we're getting a second season of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He says, we've got a ways to go. So I think season 2, we'll see what happens. Maybe Qui-Gon will be incorporated a little bit more, but we've got a ways to go setting up the sequel. So that was Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 6, and this has been Obi-Wan Kenobi, season 1. Yeah, this was easily heads and tails above even episode 5. Episode 5 is the second best episode, but this is so much better than it. This is one of the best pieces of Star Wars media to come out in recent years. It's up there with season 1 of The Mandalorian. And I'm talking particularly just about episode 6. It's very good. That Vader versus Obi-Wan fight is definitely top 5 in Star Wars for me. So like my top 5 would probably, in no particular order, be Obi-Wan versus Anakin on Mustafar, Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul in Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, Luke versus Vader in Empire, Luke versus Vader in Return of the Jedi, and then probably this, Vader versus Obi-Wan in episode 6. Those are probably my 5 favorite lightsaber duels. In no particular order, definitely top 5. Just an amazing, an amazing finale to a show that definitely had its ups and downs, I'm not gonna lie, but I think that for the most part the good did outweigh the bad. I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi for what it was. There were some lulls, I'll recognize that. There were some things that, the criticisms, things that definitely should have been paid attention to. At times the show felt cheap and like it didn't really know what it wanted to be, but I think for better or for worse, it did in the end wind up being pretty good. So that is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Thank you guys so much for watching all of these reviews that I've been putting out for this series. Tomorrow we got the draft live stream and no other video tomorrow night, just the live stream, so hope you guys tune in for that. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings, both about episode 6 or just about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series in general. Also subscribe to the channel for more content just like this every single day. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.